the video once again to understand the concept in detail. There could be some questions which you might find an answer by searching yourself. If there are no more questions, we can go ahead with the next issue. Any questions from the last class? No. Okay. We did talk about how mind and body are, whether they are separate entities or they are one. Yes, Akash? Akash, any questions?
Yes, sir. Hello. Hello. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, which book we have to follow for health psychology, sir?
Book I'll send you, but
Okay, sir.
mostly I'm not following any particular book because I don't find that any one book would suffice the kind of course that we are running here. And as such, you are from engineering background, so we are this is my plan to orient you to different areas or ideas on health psychology, and not to make you an expert in health psychology, but to have a brief idea how it is being practiced. So there could not be one book. I might share some ebooks with you. You may refer to them, but try to focus on the class discussions because this is more important for your understanding. Okay.
Sir, is there any slides for that or
As I have
you
told
share?
you, I am not going to show the same kind of slides and same kind of lecture that others follow. Listen to the lectures if you want. Once it is over, keep a copy of the lecture and listen to them. You have any questions, you can ask me in this class or after the classes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
So each class is important for you. Do not think that there will be some slides and you just go through that slides. No, no one goes through that slide. We know that. Even if I provide you a book, you are not going to look into that book. It is just a kind of we are hoarding things. So why not focus on the classroom activities for that 1 hour or maybe 45 minutes, and you try to learn whatever you want to learn, and keep a notebook with you, note it down so that you can remember, yes, something has been discussed in a particular class. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you, sir.
So in his time, uh, the first half of the 20th century, Freud spoke of consciously or unconsciously instead of body or mind. According to him, unconscious conflicts caused physical problems. This would we now call psychosomatic. Health is more than just the absence of illness. Individual behavior also plays a bigger role in health and illness. Now, to give you an example, let me ask you, whenever you feel something, how easy or difficult for you to express to anyone or everyone you find near you? Is it that easy to express whatever comes to your mind, or it's difficult? How quickly you express yourself? or how much struggle do you have before you say something. Now, for that matter, if somebody is asked to uh, speak in front of a audience in a hall, how many of you are readily come to the audience and start speaking? What is the fear? Why not everyone is coming to the audience and speaking? So there are some inhibitions, and those inhibitions are psychological. Most of the inhibitions are psychological and they were unconscious. We are not aware of this unless and until we are exposed to it. So similarly, when you go on suppressing things without expressing, they take form of different diseases. All types of diseases, I mean, most of the diseases, if you analyze, must have a relationship with your psychological makeup. This is another story that no one is looking into that aspect because the modern medicine doesn't believe in it, and they say that if you have some symptoms, we have medicine, fix it, and you are cured. But it is not cured, it is suppressed because the origin is mind, and there lies the problem. So Sigmund Freud used to have those kind of therapies where he tries to take patients to their past, to their childhood, to understand what was wrong with them, and gradually with more sessions the patient gets better. So that is why understanding the unconscious forces is important in addition to the behavior which is mostly conscious. Is also important to understand how we become healthy or unhealthy. Now for the behavioral part, uh, one example I can give, suppose you are not sleeping when you feel asleep, you are not eating when you actually feel hungry. So what will happen? You are going to fall ill sooner than later. And we say that we are under so much of pressure, work pressure, study pressure, so we are not able to take care of ourselves. That's not the point. You need to stay healthy, need to remain healthy, so take care of yourself. No one is there responsible for your health and well-being except you. So this is a behavioral part. Let's discuss something about behavior, death, and disease. Over the last century, not only our views on disease have changed, the knowledge about physical functioning and any possible treatments has also increased. In the 20th century, life expectancy has risen sharply in Western countries. Explanations for this are treatments with medicine, vaccinations, developments in education and in agriculture. This is one part of the story. Infectious diseases are becoming less common. Instead of these diseases, there are diseases such as cancer, heart, lung, and liver diseases, which are more common. This development mainly occurs in developed countries. Behavior such as smoking, extreme alcohol consumption, poor diet, and a sedentary lifestyle are associated with diseases just mentioned. Cancer deaths account for approximately two-thirds of our behavior. In addition, because humans nowadays prevent or survive the diseases that we previously died of, which means that humans now reach ages where the cancer incidence is higher. Incidence in the number of new cases of an illness per unit of time is called incidence. This is often confused with prevalence. Prevalence refers to how many people suffer from a particular disease at a given time. A striking development in recent decades is that people from Western cultures are increasingly considering traditional medicine, and that people from traditional and developing countries are learning more and more about our modern medicine. So that is the dichotomy. We think that the modern medicines are good for us, whereas Westerners have started thinking about the alternate ways of healing, alternative medicines. They are more into non-medical methods of healing than the medical methods, because by now gradually there is an understanding the modern medicines, mostly the allopathic medicines, have stopped functioning. It is not going to work well on our bodies. Had it been true, then we shouldn't have seen many different kind of diseases. We shouldn't have many hospitals. What is the goal of healthcare system? Why there is a healthcare system? Should we open up more hospitals? What is the assumption behind it? If we go for more hospitals, we implicitly understand that there could be more diseases, or there would be more diseases, so there is a need of more hospitals. Why can't we think about more preventive centers? Why can't we educate people what will keep them healthy and safe? Rather than doing that, we are focusing and all our energies are channelized, be it financial, be it time, be it human resources. Everything is channelized to create more hospitals, more research centers for curing the disease. But there is not much on how to prevent them. Why should one fall ill? We talk less about that. There are some theories of health that talks about the individual, cultural, and lifespan perspectives. So some lay theories of health says if you want to offer individual optimal health care, it is important to know what they mean by health and health behavior, because it differs per culture, gender, age category, or health, how someone interprets these concepts. Young people and people who are not sick often describe health as observing health behavior, while elderly and sick people describe health as the absence of symptoms and illness. Health can also be defined as the things that a physically fit person can do. So here we try to say that the definition of health varies with age. Health to an old man or health to a young person is different. An old man wants to stay away from illnesses, whereas the young one wants to remain in the same state for a longer period of time. When the understanding of health is different from for two different age categories of people, how are you going to treat both of them with same kind of medication if they fall ill? So we need to think about such uh, kind of definitions or maybe understanding of health. How health is represented socially. How people assess their own health also depends on who, what, and where they are. Someone who often eats unhealthy will consider this less serious if they have many people in their environment who eat unhealthy more often. For example, your generation, do you think you are getting healthy food or eating healthy food, be it in your hostels or in the outside places? Do you get a healthy food in the hostel or in the canteens, whatever cafeteria is available in NIT Rourkela or outside Rourkela, whenever you are in the campus? How many of you opt for a healthy food in Madhuban or Radhika or these places? Probably not. But there are more perspectives for viewing health. Health is not ill. No symptoms, no visits to the doctor. Health as reserve. Someone comes from a healthy family and often recovers quickly. The person will sooner think that he can handle unhealthy behavior. It's been studied that people who are happy-go-lucky kind of people, they fall ill more frequently than people who are little conscious. Health as behavior. Usually when it comes to others, the neighbor is very healthy because we see him running every morning. Health is also represented socially as physical fitness and vitality. This definition is often used by young people, especially men. Men see the concept of health more as the feeling of being fit, while women define health more as full of energy. Health has psychosocial well-being. When someone who feels good is probably also healthy. And health as function. Health is increasingly described as being able to work and being able to do what you want to do. People who have to indicate whether they consider themselves healthy often compare themselves with others. When people are in good health, there are more young people than older people who compare themselves to people of their own age. Young people are generally in good health. When people are in less good health, there are more older people than young people who compare themselves to their peers. Older people more often have poor health. People try to get the best out of their evaluations. Hence, the gist of this discussion says health is a relative term. But we have an organization at the world level, World Health Organization, which describes health as a state of physical, mental, and social well-being and the absence of disease. What is missing in these definitions are the socioeconomic and cultural influences on health. The definition also does not make clear what the role of the psyche is, but it plays an important role in the experience of health and disease. So the cultural and socioeconomic as well as the psychological aspects is largely unaddressed or absent in the definition of health, as we have reviewed how health is understood by different people or the social construction of health. There is another angle to health which is called cross-cultural perspectives of health. Opinions about health can differ per culture. A good example would be the approach to alcohol addiction. In some cultures, alcohol addiction is seen as legal and moral problem. Addicts are seen as victims of substance. In other cultures, alcohol consumption is seen more as a sign of personal weakness. It also differs per culture or health. If someone is their own concern or is dealt with collectively. In many African regions, it is common for the residents of a village to be concerned about the health of all villagers. Everyone has their own task in this and thus contribute to collective health. In Eastern cultures like ours, there is often a holistic approach in addition to the collectivistic approach. They are concerned with the whole thing and whole being, the well-being of their environment instead of the visible or physical part. In the West, we often see an individualistic approach. People must ensure that they become or remain healthy. How someone behaves in this case is also largely determined by their personal needs. So, if we discuss about the Eastern culture and Western culture, whether they take responsibility for their behavior, we in our culture do not take the responsibility for our own behavior. But in the West, there is something wrong. They commit some mistake. They owe it. Yes, I have done this mistake. But if the same case happens with us, we say that no, I am not responsible. I did it because somebody else is responsible for this. We do not, we never ever own the responsibility. And that is the case with health also. When it comes to health, we think that somebody else is there who is going to take care of my health. I am not responsible for my health. So this is the difference between cultures, how health is uh, approached. Coming to the lifespan, aging, and beliefs about health and illness, it goes without saying that a toddler has little knowledge about health and healthy behavior. We all know that. People usually acquire this knowledge automatically as they develop. There are various theories about this. Now, a good example would be uh, what do you do in the morning when you wake up first? So I'll have some interaction with you people before I proceed to the next one. So what's the first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning? I want 10 answers, 10 people.
Charge our phones.
Charging phone. Okay. Next. Next. What is the first thing in the morning that you do when you wake up?
So drink some water.
Drink some water. Okay. Next.
Stretch
I go to
myself.
washroom.
Raise your hands. Raise your hands so that I can go to the people. Rutaj.
So turn on my laptop and go to the washroom.
No, tell one thing. One thing you do. You turn in your laptop. Okay.
Yeah, that's the first thing.
What is the first thing? What is the first thing that you do? Okay.
Turn on the laptop because class.
Okay. Priti.
Sir, doing yoga.
Yoga. Okay. Navin.
So checking up the mails or social media.
Checking mails. Okay. Akash.
Sir, I
Akash.
turn my alarm clock. Then when it sound more and more, then I stop there and sleep again.
Okay. Nitin.
Sir, I check any calls or text I have missed in the night.
Sorry. What do you do?
Sir, I check any calls or texts if I have
Okay. Okay.
missed them at
Okay.
the
Okay.
night.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Yeah. Ashish.
Body stretch, sir.
Body stretch. Okay. Sandeep.
I will go to
Yes, Sandeep. Hello, Sandeep. And
Sir,
Sandeep.
using washroom.
Washroom. Okay. Vijay Mohan. This is the last one. Vijay.
Sir, walking.
Walking.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, after waking up, you start working.
Yes, sir.
The first thing that you do.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, we got some representative answers from you, and how do you start your day with? And most of you have some kind of jobs to do with your gadgets, or very few of you are into some of the practices which is not related to gadgets. Now, is it healthy or unhealthy? These behaviors, what do you consider? Is it healthy, Rutaj?
So definitely not, but we don't have a choice in the lockdown.
Oh, okay. It's because of lockdown you have lack of choices. Okay. Vardhan?
Sir, I'm unable to justify my answer, sir.
If the mobile needs not charged, let it be. What's problem?
If the
You can
mobile is
charge
not
it
charging,
later.
will
You
be
can do something else and then charge it later on. There is no hurry,
yes, sir.
isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's interesting to find some of the behavioral aspects that is practiced by you after waking up. But you know that it's not good to cling to the gadgets just after waking up. Well, if you have that knowledge, you have the control that you can change that behavior. But many times it happens that you don't know and you are engaged into some kind of activities. What is more dangerous? Knowing but not doing, or not knowing and doing?
Knowing but not doing.
So we all are into that kind of trap, isn't it? All educated people are into that trap. We know, but we don't do. What is good, we all know, but we don't do. And that is where we talk about health psychology. It is about the behavior. It is about the behavior that we need to change. And that is one of the most difficult things to do. Okay, now coming to this lifespan, aging, and beliefs about health and illness, the developmental theories, which is a process, development as a process, is a function of the interaction between three factors: learning, experience, and maturation. So what is learning? Learning is a relatively permanent change of knowledge, skill, or ability as a result of experience. And what is experience? What we do, see, hear, feel, and think. And what is maturation? The thoughts, behavior, or physical growth attributed to the genetically determined order of aging and not to experiences. So, health and illness, how they are affected based on our learning, based on our experience, and based on our maturation is important to understand. Erik Erikson described 8 development phases that have to do with the development of an image and a character with regard to health. These 8 phases can be roughly divided into 4 points: cognitive and intellectual functioning, number 1; number 2, language and communication skills; number 3, the understanding of illness; number 4, health care and maintenance behavior. Want to treat someone's health, it is important to know what developments a person has lived through, so that you also know what kind of behavior you can expect from someone. Similarly, Jean Piaget developed a framework around the cognitive development of people. He also developed a structure of different phases which he thought everyone would go through in the same order. However, not everyone comes to the final phase in their development. So this discussion is a part of how we develop with regard to health and illness from birth to 2 years. there is a sensory motor period where the child understands the world through sensations and movement. It has no symbolic thoughts yet. It moves from reflective to voluntary action. So many of the developmental problems occur during this period, 0 to 2 years, has long-term consequences if the child is not taken proper care. You might have heard of some of the developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, multiple disability, intellectual disability, many different forms of disability. Mostly nowadays we find many of the cases are having autism spectrum disorders. By 2 years they are seen in kids. From 2 to 7 years old, which is called as a pre-operational stage of development, the child develops symbolic thoughts and becomes ego-centered or self-centered. The child sees things only from his own perspective. So there are tests how to know whether the child is self-centered or ego-centered or other-centered. From 7 years to 11 years, there is a concrete operational stage where abstract thought and logic develop enormously. The child can perform mental operations and manipulate objects. So you start learning mathematics and other complex things from standard 2 onwards, standard 2, 3 onwards. From 12 years, it is called formal operational stage, where abstract thoughts and fantasy develop just like deductive reasoning. Not everyone can reach this level. So we all are now in this stage, formal operation. Everyone have achieved this stage because none of us are below 12 years of age. We'll be discussing all these stages in more detail in the next class. Why it is important to understand the lifespan, aging and health, lifespan development, aging and health, because our understanding of concepts also develops with age and the behavioral changes. So without understanding a lifespan perspective, we can't understand health. That is why we are supposed to talk about these issues. Now we'll have some questions and discussions. Yes. Raise your hands for questions or discussions. No questions?